So what first inspired you? Like, where did the inspiration to play the violin come from?
Well, my biggest inspiration was my father, because I come from a musical family. So I grew up listening to my dad, like making all this like romantic music for my mom. So like the first thing I heard was my dad singing. Literally, that's like my biggest memory. That's how he made her fall in love. So every day I'll come home, my dad will be with the guitar, just writing music and singing to her. So I think I fell in love with music from that moment. He used to tell me a lot of stories. I remember my dad used to tell me that he was so passionate about music and he loved music and he always wanted to be a rock star. And he was like, I dream of performing in front of people and traveling around the world and doing this, but I can't do it because I decided to have a family and you came into my life and you're the most beautiful thing. So those words were like in my head. So I think my dad injected the rock star dream inside me since I was like 5 years old, because I was like, that was like the first conversations I had with my dad. And one day when I was 7 years old, well, almost to be 7, I was very, very young. I was watching a movie with my mom and my dad, and the movie was like about an orphan girl that played the violin on the streets, and she had like 11 brothers and sisters. And then I remember she was like playing on the streets, and the violin and the sound was so beautiful to me that when I saw the instrument, I fell in love with it. And then the story was so touching. Because I remember I was asking my mom at that moment, I was like, Mom, why is she doesn't have, where is her mom and her dad? And my mom was explaining that she, her parents passed away and all this. So that like caught my attention. I told my mom, I want to play violin. So like one day I could also play violin and then help with you guys and bring money to the house. I remember as I told my mom said like, you don't need to do that. And I was like, but this is so beautiful and it's an instrument. And my mom said like, okay, we'll get you a violin. So every day for 1 week, I would like go to my parents' room and I'll be like, my violin. So my dad had to travel from Santa Marta to Medellin and buy me a violin. And that was the happiest day of my life. When he came back home from travels and he's like, I have a surprise for you. And he brings the violin. And I was like jumping all over. You like remember that 6 years old little girl just like crying. And then my dad gives me the violin. It's such a like typical Latin dad, they're like very like kind of like machista a little bit. And they're like, okay, mija, I'm going to give you a violin. But you're a woman and you have to be very strong. I'm going to give you this, but you are never going to quit violin. And I was like, I'm a 6-year-old. I'm like, I'm making a promise that I'm never going to leave the instrument. He's like, if you're going to play violin, you're going to play it forever. You promise me? And I was like, of course, Dad. Yes, sure. I got the violin.
And you kept that promise.
Yeah, until now.
So did it become an obsession? Like the next day you just start getting after it? Because it's like one of the hardest instruments to learn, is it not?
Yes. So I knew it was going to be challenging because I mean, like the first moment I grabbed violin, I didn't even know what to do with it. So my mom, she was very efficient. She enrolled me in school. It was called Batuta at that time. And it was a conservatory for little kids. So I remember she used to take me there. Every day after school, my mother would take me to my music school to learn how to play violin. And I was kind of like very competitive. I remember for me, I learned with Suzuki. So for me, like I would just look around all the other kids and see like who would like jump from like one to the second one to the like faster than the other one. And I was enrolled in orchestras. And so the training was very, very intense growing up because I had a mom that was super strict, and she will make sure that I will practice and I will do like all the training that I need to do.
Yeah.
I remember I used to hate practice.
Everybody does. But you did it.
Yes, I used to hate it, but it was like I loved music so much, but I didn't like to practice. And my mom used to tell me, well, if you want to be good at something, you have to suffer. If something comes easy, it's going to go easy. But if you suffer for something, it's going to last forever.
More reward, yeah,
yes,
it's rich.
Yes, and I was like, okay. And then she would always make me practice every day, and it was so worth it.
So did you pretty quickly get a chance to play chamber music with the chamber, with the orchestra?
So I played in kids orchestra because this was back home in Colombia. We're talking when I lived in Colombia. And then when I was like 13, I was already part of the Philharmonic in Barranquilla, which was like the main orchestra for the whole coast. So it was like a couple of different cities, and all like the best players would come in, and then they would play together for like a couple of seasons for concerts. I was one of the youngest ones, honestly. I was like only 13 years old.
Wow.
So that was kind of like, it was challenging, obviously, because I was like among other people that were way older and way more like, better than me. But I always, like, being so young, I was so passionate and I was so disciplined that I was able to keep up with all of them. Unfortunately, when I was turning 14, my dad comes home one day and he's like, we gotta leave Colombia. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, pick just the things that you wanted that fit in one luggage. We're leaving everything and we got 1 week to get out of the country. Like that.
Whoa. Okay, so what triggered that?
Well, my dad used to work for the politics back home, and I come from a family that is very involved in politics. So even my grandfather, uncles, aunts, I have a couple of family members that were killed back then. So it was very hard for my family. So like we were kind of like in danger, So my dad, he said that it was one of the toughest decisions he had to make because we were a middle class, very comfortable. He was a professional back home, like, vet. He worked with the government, so we were good. And then one day he just said, like, either we're okay good here, but one of my kids could die, get killed, or even myself, or we leave and start from zero in a completely different country. And he said, it was like the best decision I could make because I wanted to save you guys. So we got to stick together. And 1 week, go say bye to all your friends. Go say bye to your whole family. You don't know where you're going to see your grandparents anymore. So imagine, I'm like, that was like so hard.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, super hard.
That hard. That age alone is hard. It's hard. There's challenges that you're dealing with.
Yes.
Just being in that tender age. So then you come here. Did you go to Los Angeles?
We came here to Downey. You know where Downey is?
Of course. I grew up in Diamond Bar, so it's pretty close.
Yeah. So, it's I was so grateful that we got to Downey because there was more people that spoke Spanish, instead of me going somewhere where like, because there's like some places that were like very racist. I still remember like going through like moments where I got to Downey and I was in high school and people would speak to me in English and I was like, oh, no hablo inglés, and they would just like be like very rude to me, But it was all part of the process, because I came to this country, I had my family, as long as we were all together, that's what mattered. I brought my violin. My brothers brought their piano books, like we all came. My dad, like literally, we left everything in just one luggage, each one of us. And we're like, we're alive. We're going to start from zero all over again. I remember my dad and my mom, they even had to clean houses when we moved here because, they literally, like his degree of being a doctor back home was worthless here. And he was his biggest, like, when someone gets punched in the ego or not ego, but like you're someone somewhere and here you're nobody, so figure it out with a family of 5. So like I remember like seeing my dad and my mom like literally crying like days and be like, you know what, it's okay, we're alive, which is what matters, So like seeing that and seeing that my dad would sacrifice so many things, one of the first things they did when we moved here was, I don't even know how they did this, which I'm like so like amazed. They found orchestra for me. So I went to the Pasadena Young Musician Orchestra and they enrolled me there. I was like a sophomore in high school. And they got me into a community of music. And they always believed in me. I feel like my parents always saw something like in me and they were like, we're gonna support you no matter what. They will give me like $50 every week to pay for my violin lessons. They found me a teacher. It was so beautiful. Like I remember all the sacrifices, all the things that they did back then that that's one of the main reasons I'm like, I'm never leaving my music, my instrument. Like, this is so meaningful to me because my parents believed in me even when nobody did.
That's so inspiring.
Yeah.
And then how about the electronic music? Did you just show up one day and start hearing?
No, actually. So coming from a classical background, you all know that classical music requires a lot of discipline, and there's a lot of people that are amazing at it. I always knew that classical music was a tool, but it was not my genre.
Right.
Where I was going to end up
Gave
with.
you the foundation.
It gave me the foundation.
And probably gives you a leg up a little bit when you move to a different genre.
Exactly. It's the base of any genre, I think.
Right, of course.
So, I was not the best in the conservatory. I was not the best, but I always was really good at what I did. You know what I mean? I was not comparing. Whatever I would play, you knew it was coming from the heart. So it was very genuine. So I auditioned for Colburn School and I got rejected. That was for classical music, for a scholarship. So when that happened, I was super, super sad. And I was like, rejection, wow, failure right there. I was like, oh, I'm not good for violin. I should probably just choose something else. Then I was like, what are my strengths? I was like, okay, I am really good at playing the violin. I might not be the best at playing classical music, but I'm really good at playing violin, the instrument. And one day, one of my teachers, my violin teacher, she goes like, Esther, do you know how to improvise? And I was like, yes, because that's what I used to do with my dad every Sunday with the guitar, bring the violin, let's make music together. With my brothers playing at church, we used to improvise a lot. So then I told her yes, and she's like, can you do a gig for me? She was my teacher and she couldn't improvise on the gig. And I was like, I'll take it. So that's where I realized my strength was at improvisation and playing in other genres. So I was thinking already outside the box.
Which, by the way, is rare for classical artists. Am I right?
Yes, completely right. It's very hard for a classical artist to improvise, and just like, because it's you are so used to reading and following, and I was the complete opposite.
Yeah, so why do you think that is? Because they just simply don't practice improvising? Or why do you think classical? Because people look at classical like they're so well-rounded and they're so fluent.
Yeah.
But then you put them in a room and try to get them to improvise and they freeze. Isn't that interesting? Because they're trained so well and so thoroughly. But to me, that seems like I'd be banging my head against the wall if I was trained to that level. It's like having a PhD in music, but you can't play in a band.
Yes.
Unless you're following a score.
I know. It's
so
crazy,
it's because
right?
you practiced it, basically, right?
It's because I started it when I was like young. I feel like it was like part of my routine too. I feel like that if classical music, they also did as an improvisation alongside, people's brain will get trained to be creative in both ways and use the techniques in the improvisation, and I think that would be like a game over.
And so here you are. You did classical training and then you were also improvising, but little did you know that improvising practice put you in a position to be perfectly positioned to take on this opportunity, which was, sorry I cut you off.
This opportunity.
But I find that so interesting though, like why you spent 20 years to train, but you can't improvise. I mean, it seems like, but
yeah,
anyway.
it is a very interesting concept of, how do you, but I say like, it's something you have to like,
you got to practice it.
You got to practice it. You got to try. You got to like let your guard down, because I feel like improvisation has a lot to do with like feelings and like the way how you feel at that moment. Whatever you hear, I don't even know what notes I'm playing when I'm improvising, or like anything. I cannot replicate the same thing sometimes. I'm like, do you get that take? I'm like, okay, record like the whole time, because you don't know something really cool might happen, and I might not do it ever again, type of thing, But after that I realized that I was able to do improvisation, then I started being recommended to play with DJs and play like private events, bar mitzvah. And we're talking about like me, like high school, like literally like graduating from high school. I went to college for business management and human resources, but I always knew I was never going to use that. I just did it because of my parents. There was like plan B, Esther, plan B, and I was plan B. I was like, this is plan parents, because it's definitely not plan B for me. There's no plan B. And then I started networking. So important when it comes to any career. And something I learned very young. I was very good at networking, and wherever I would go, if I would be performing at a private event, I would always be like, okay, who owns this place? Can I get introduced? Hi, how are you? I'm Esther Anaya. If you ever need any type of entertainment, you can hit me up. So I was always try to find ways of putting myself out there, letting people know what I do, and following up. Like, I would be intense. I've always been super intense when it comes to, like, finding opportunities and finding, like, outlets and things where I know I could bring value and it could benefit me as well. And I started meeting people, getting into different auditions through friends. Hey, do you want to come do this, X, Y, and Z? And I did an audition that changed my life. 2011 for the All-Star Game at the Staples Center with Rihanna and Kanye West. That, I would say, was the moment I realized I wanted to become a superstar like Rihanna one day. And I was like, this is an eye-opener. I was like playing with the string sample. We were playing Umbrella, and I was like in the Staples Center, and I was like literally just looking, and I was like daydreaming in my head of one day being there doing my own show. And like I felt that like literally open up my eyes, and I said, I'm gonna train and do anything it would take to one day be here and be able to fill this place out and play and perform my own music. And the whole journey started there. I was like, if I want to be at her level, it requires a lot of work, and it requires a lot of persistency. It requires a lot of, things are not always going to go right. And I had like the moments where like literally I was like, through the whole process of getting training, looking for more opportunities, knocking for doors, going back to my friends and be like, hey, can you help me in X, Y, and Z? Asking for help, which is super important, and getting denied by some people that you never thought they would say no to you. Things like that are going to happen through the process. I had many discouragements, moments where I said, you know what, I'm just going to give up. This music is not for me. There's so many people that are way better than me. And there's like moments where I feel like in those moments I was very negative. I would go to my parents. And it was like that comfort, because I remember when I was like so little, my parents were the ones who were like encouraged me, would take me to class. And my mom and my dad say, no, why are you going to give up? If God gave you a gift, you're not supposed to put your talent under the bed and not let it shine. You are a star. You have to shine for other people. You have to give light to other people. You cannot do that, because guess what? Then God is going to take that talent and give it to someone else that could do something valuable for it. And that always got stuck in my head.
It's true, isn't it?
It is true. It is like, it's a purpose. That to be true. It is a purpose.
Yeah, It's a calling. And if you ignore it, to me, that's like the worst thing to go to the end of your days and not listening to that call. So. Yeah,
completely. I think like one of the things I will always advise people when they feel like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm going to like give up on my dream or something. It's like, just imagine your life waking up without doing that every day. Will you be happy? And I asked my question, and I said, I would be miserable. I would die. I would rather die than waking up and not knowing that I cannot go to the studio, that I cannot pick up the violin, that I cannot perform. So I said, I cannot, like, no.
Yeah, and that's how that's how I know, eventually you're going to break through if you stay true to who and what you are.
Yeah.
That's a good message there. I can completely relate to that.
Right?
That's what I'm doing now, finally.
Yes.
I waited too long, to be honest.
And I never think like you wait too long, though. I always think you are doing it at the right time, because that, like, what you're doing with your music and you're starting like late for you, other people that are like you are going to see you an inspiration, because you're the inspiration for them to start it at that moment, and they don't feel it's too late either. Like I always say, like, you're always going to be an inspiration for someone that needs to hear your story at that moment, Yeah,
that's inspiring.
Mm-hmm. It's completely,
Thank you for that.
No, yes, it's true. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100%. So
so it's like a story over and over of overcoming adversity. It sounds like rejection, getting turned down.
Oh yeah.
You know, playing in different places, various settings.
Yeah.
You know, being a classical artist where it's sort of polished and buttoned up. Everything's planned for you. You get the score, you know, and you're having to go outside the box. So there's all this other stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, because it's interesting, like how polished it looks. The classical world looks polished.
Yes.
And it's sort of planned for you. But when you're an independent artist, you got all these alligators trying to eat you, basically, right? And you have to be in different settings. You never know what the hell it's going to be. So it's really inspiring, actually, to hear that, which I would imagine is pretty rare. You don't see a lot of violin players jumping out of the classical world to swim with the sharks, so to speak, right?
Yes, and I think that's like one of my callings, or one of like things, like that's one of the reasons why I really, really will be very successful at what I'm doing more, because I want to inspire those people that like feel like I'm not good enough because it's so competitive. That the classical music world is super competitive. So many, but you are good enough to do something that fits for you, because there's always going to be something that fits you. There's nobody that is going to be another Esther, another John. Never, ever. So you have such a great chance of creating something so unique. Get out of the box. I want to see kids like see the violin cool and being able to like, oh yeah, it's not like, oh, I played violin when I was in 4th grade, but I left it because it was not cool enough. I want kids in the next generation be like, I play violin and I'm very successful at it and I didn't quit, you know? So I want to be that, like, you know, source of like, you know, like maybe open another outlet of like different styles that you could do with my nonprofit also. That's why like I want to be able to like bring these opportunities and instruments to kids and help them in any way I can.
Yeah. I think you paved the way for somebody else that might be thinking somewhere, anywhere in the world that's playing in an ensemble going,
I'm stuck.
I'd like to try something else, but I feel stuck.
Yeah.
You know, they're following along. So
no,
it's
and
inspiring.
like, you know, like
it shows
for example,
other people that it's possible.
Yes. And for example, I matched it with DJing, right? And I feel like a lot of people used to tell me, you are crazy because you should stick to one thing and do only one thing until you're successful at it, because you're going to confuse the crowd and you're just doing so many things at the same time. And everybody wanted just to like limit me. Like I work with managers and like agents, and they're like, Esther, you're just so confused. You need to pick whatever you are going to be. Are you going to be a DJ or a violinist or a singer? And I was like, everything. It was like, you want to do it all? And I was like, yes, because I can do it all. I could step out on stage and I could DJ, sing, play the violin. Why not? And dance. Yeah. Literally. Why not? So there's no limitations. And that's why I say the more knowledge, the more power you have.
Yeah.
And not power to overpower other people. It's power to inspire other people. And that is the difference.
Yeah, and it seems like people love to box other people in, don't they?
Yes.
People always seem to think they know what's best for you, but they really don't. It's projection is what it really is.
Completely.
And humans aren't really linear. They keep trying to make us linear, but we're not linear.
You're
we're like
not
dynamic.
To either.
Yeah, and you completely change. All you got to do is watch a kid. They're exuberant. They're everything. You know, they marvel in the ordinary. They see a butterfly, they're like, wow. Yeah. But if an adult stops and marvels in the ordinary, people are like, what's wrong with you? You should be focused. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
It's like a creative's nightmare. Like, seriously.
Completely.
It's like pouring acid on a creative, so I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah. It's
sure.
like, I'm like, let me be, you know?
Yeah, it's like, let me be free.
Yeah.
That's why my kids like, Daddy, can I do this? Absolutely.
Yes.
It doesn't even have to make sense. Life's not supposed to make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Everything we do is created and fabricated anyway. Yeah. So like you said, you do what's best for you, what's meaningful to you. So
yeah, exactly.
There's a message in there that's important.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it makes me happy what I do. I love it. It's not easy, and I will always say it. And anybody that asks me, they say, how do you become who you are? And I was like, I cried. I wanted to quit. Don't think because I've been a girl, I look pretty, things are going to be easier. It definitely no. Complete opposite. You know, being a woman, a Latina in the music industry and the DJ industry is one of the hardest things ever. People diminish you. They don't think you're capable of. You're not strong enough to compete with males. You're not talented enough. So, like, some people will be like, oh, is she playing? Like, I walk into the place and I'm about to, like, DJ. They're probably, like, looking at me like, she... And then they see me doing my thing and they're, like, probably, you know, they're like, oh, shit. Like, she knows what she's doing.
So are you at a point now where those looks motivate you even more? Where you know people are sort of looking down? Sort of this... The motivator, the driving factor is defying the odds, right? That's what's pushing you at this point. Because you're doing it over and over, which is like a slap in the face to those that look down or judge on you, right?
I like to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's become fuel.
Oh, yes.
Whereas when you're younger, you just crumble. And as you get older and you overcome it, you know, it makes you stronger.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, when I was young, there was so many things that like did help me back, you know, fear of rejection. Like I was like, what are they gonna think? And the older I get, I was like, hell no. Like I was like, if I would have done this differently and not care, like, or like people that are so like negative and like jealous that always have an opinion about whatever you do and say, you're blocked.
Yeah, it's just
from my social media and life.
It's because they're jealous and insecure. That's it.
Yeah.
If they have the time to be looking at you and judging you, that means they are painfully insecure and they have a hole in their heart that they're trying to fill.
Exactly.
So they want to make you feel bad to bring you down to their level so they feel better.
Yeah.
So, which we all, I think we kind of all know what people are doing at this point. The trolls. Mm-hmm. We're on to you, trolls.
Yeah. Totally, completely. I completely agree with you. I think, you know, one thing I would have said to myself when I was a younger girl, it's like, understand that some people are gonna hate me, some people are gonna love me, and I should not care. Because when you're growing up, you always want people to like you. And like in life, you want to be likable. But understanding that people are going to hate you and people are going to love you and only the right people will be around you will probably take a lot of pressure out of, you know, would have taken a lot of pressure and would have made me just like do a bunch of other things when I was younger that I just like didn't want to be hated for.
Yeah. You don't have to accept someone else's belief about your limitations. You don't have to accept that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so now nothing probably scares you now, right? Yeah. I'm the same way. Doesn't it feel great?
Amazing.
Like literally nothing scares me.
It's freedom.
I'm the same person when I wake up, when I'm with my kids, when I'm at work. It's like, I'm always the same person. I'm at the gas station. Yeah. So I don't have to like put on these different faces to sort of please people. It's just like, this is who I am. And sometimes you can tell when people are acting weird around you, like you get that weird feeling because they want you to be like cliquey or weird or whatever shit they're into. And then you just go, oh, okay. And it just, you're sort of numb to it at this point. But when you're younger, you would internalize that. And then you start switching and thinking, oh my God, I need to make this person feel good so I could feel better. And it's like this vicious cycle. So it's very liberating, isn't it? And like
so
freeing.
So liberating.
And if only we could tell the younger ones that you can deal with it quicker. Sometimes we wait a little bit too long. Some people never deal with that, actually.
Yeah.
They go to their graves feeling that way. So
yeah.
It's great. It's inspiring. It's what you're doing so much more than the music. I mean, there's a beautiful message in it.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I've had so much in my life that have happened that I've like definitely have to share with other people because it's so relatable. And I feel like some other people are probably going through it and all they need to hear is like sometimes your experience. Like, you know, one thing as I stay true to myself is super important. I'm always going to be me no matter what people say or they, you know, I accept myself the way I am. I learned that probably when I was in my early 20s after going through a very hard breakup, that I needed to love myself, and like going through those experiences like completely wake me up, and I was like, I need to accept who I am, and I need to, whatever I do, I have to do it with my heart, because my heart is the only, like, is genuine, and you cannot lie about the way your feelings about like your heart. You will never lie love. Like, how to explain that? Like, you cannot play, I would say, like, I can never play a piece of music pretending not to feel something. You will feel what I'm playing.
Yeah.
So that's why whatever I do in music, I do it with love, and I do it with intention, and I know it somehow is gonna touch someone, and someone is gonna react to it, whatever it is. So
yeah, it evokes emotions in your audience. Mm-hmm. They're feeling the emotions that you feel. That's the beauty of music, and that I think is the goal, probably, right? That's the goal of an artist, to evoke that emotion in someone else that they remember the first time they felt, or they feel perpetually throughout their life. So I think everyone, even non-musicians, can relate to that. They've been inspired, or they've felt a certain emotion in a song. Yeah. That's why songs without words evoke emotion, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of interesting.
100%. I'm like, I'm like so inspired by, so many like different artists that like really touched my life growing up, and I feel like that's how, because I didn't even speak English when I would listen to Michael Jackson, so it's like that he like really touched my life, whatever, he's
yeah, you're following the melody,
so
you're following the beat. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Your story is very inspiring. It's so much more than the music. It really is. Yeah,
there's so much more than music. I feel, I found my purpose. So when like there's so many people that say like, you need to find your purpose in life, and I feel like we all have one. Definitely 100%. And whoever, like, some people are just like, oh, I don't have a purpose, I'm like just here for whatever, like, you do have a purpose. We all have it. I feel like once I like found my purpose, which is to create music and touch people's lives through my music, and like share my experience, and be able to have like music schools around the world, and leave that as a legacy for other generations to be able to have opportunities in life and become successful one way to another one through the tools we would provide through my nonprofit. And just being able to perform around the world is like one of my biggest dreams. I have my songs, people singing along with it, and then just like be able to connect on it. One day I'm gone, but I know my music will stay alive forever, and my grandkids could get inspired by that, and somehow probably one of my grandkids or kids or whichever stays with music. I really hope so. Because I'll be very sad even if I'm not here.
Yeah, that's my favorite word these days, legacy. Mm-hmm. You're definitely building one. There's no doubt about that. So what are the plans? What are your future plans? Current plans, future plans? What are your goals?
Oh my God. I'm really excited because there's a lot of like really, really great opportunities. I feel like the stars are aligning. Once you're ready, things just like come, to you. I feel now just doing the Cadillac commercial, it's like one of the highlights in my career. It's launching very soon, and they're showcasing my music in the commercial, and I'm actually like, endorsing Cadillac. So it's like, it's always a brand that I really wanted to work with, believe it or not. Once I moved to this country, I was like, my aunt had a Cadillac Escalade, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, if I work for a car, I would love, Cadillac. So look at me now, doing a commercial. Dreams come true. Working with the NFL. I have the contract. Yeah. I have the extended contract for this year, and I mean, I dreamed to play at the Super Bowl one day in my life, and I'm already working with the NFL, so I feel very blessed and very grateful to God for these opportunities, and just touring, making more music with you guys, like making more music with collaborations with producers and other artists. That like this year I'm releasing like about like 15 songs. I'm like coming like a
That's
hitting
huge.
everything with music.
So I have a very important question for you. are you getting any sleep with all the work that you're doing?
I do
Oh,
sleep.
just curious. It's an obvious question, though, isn't it?
Yes, it's very obvious. I love to sleep. It's one of my favorite hobbies because I call it a hobby.
It's like your superpower, huh?
Yes, sleep is like amazing. I do. For me, it's very important that even there's weekends where I can't really sleep, but I catch up to my sleep and I take really good care of my body, which is very important as an artist. I go get IVs, I get cold plunges, I get infrared sauna, I do yoga like 3 times a week. I go to F45. So I do a lot. When you don't see me working, I work out.
Working out, yeah.
So I like balance everything out with medical stuff. Like, IVs are great for me. I'm like, there's so many things. Facials, massages, you call it.
So what's the next show that's coming up? Next performance?
Well, the next show is going to be Miami, which I'm super excited. I have my residency with 11 Group, which growing up, I always dream of working with them. Another one.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy because there's such a great group to work with. I have Maya Club, which I'm gonna do their pool parties in Arizona, which is one of the best clubs there. I'm doing a Latin music festival at church, which is one of the best venues in Colorado. So great. I'm like, there's a lot of great shows that are coming in Canada, back to Canada again for Cinco de Mayo. I'm doing Charson, Trio, Charlotte. So it's a lot of things coming. I'm really excited.
So your year's booked.
Yes,
very busy.
Very, very busy.
Do you still practice the violin?
Oh, yes. So
you do your warm-ups in the morning?
I do warm-ups in the morning, not every day, but I do about like 3 to 4 times a week. I practice my DJ a lot because I haven't DJed my whole life. I play my violin my whole life, but I haven't DJed my whole life. So I know for me to catch up to tier 1, I have to put on double, triple, for every more than the usual. So you will see me spending hours to create a different set every show I do, and that's why I keep getting hired and I keep moving up. And I love to practice because of classical music, and growing up in an environment that requires so much discipline and work. For me, it's very easy to do it all over again, like if I was a kid.
Yeah, it's easy for you to adapt.
Yeah.
So what artist in your genre inspires you the most right now?
Wow. Well, I really, really love Tiesto. He's one of the persons and artists that has been able to maintain relevance throughout all the years and keep his sound very fresh. Like from trance to nowadays, just, house music and doing all mainstreams and like biggest hits right now. It's like, and I love his sets too. I've been to all his sets and he caters to the crowd. He doesn't have a preset. So I really love that about Tiesto. I love Zed. He's a homie. So he's a musician by heart. He plays the piano. He's classically trained. So I really identify with his sound. He's like very emotional in his music and in the way how he like produces. So I'm talking about like the tier ones that I like look up to. He's like definitely one of them. Well, David Guetta. Also, I used to party in Ibiza, and then when he was married to Katy and David Guetta, they used to have like this store all over Ibiza. Was all about David Guetta and Katy, his wife at that time. And I used to go to like Space and all this like Pacha where he was at, and I used to party to all his music. So I'm like, now that I get to like literally like be on the same stage with him, it's like,
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. So it's like a lot of like, DJ Snake, which like I really love the way how like he incorporates Latin music into his sets, and he could go like from hard to like really, like very trendy styles. He's like really dope. Yeah.
That's good. Is there any plans for Vegas residency, or is that still sort of?
So that's still sort of in the talks right now. I do have I do have a dream that I want to accomplish, and it's going to be in Vegas. So I'm developing a concept which I can't share.
That's
but
okay.
it's going to be
later to be revealed, right?
It will be revealed once it gets picked up. I'm working on it for a couple more months. It's going to take me a couple more months to be ready, and it's catered for Vegas. Yeah.
All right, so we're looking forward to seeing that too.
Yep.
Well, Esther, I want to let you know that I believe in you, and I think you're great.
Thank you, John.
And I think your story is very inspiring. Not only your music, but your ability to overcome adversity and just walk right through all these challenges. It must be very difficult. And I know what it feels like being a man, having those eyes on you, and I can't even imagine being a woman in that space. It's probably even harder. And you just walk right through them, which is courageous and bold. You should be proud of yourself. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
And I'm enjoying every step of the way with you and looking forward to adventures.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to work with you guys with the Earthly House and see all the great things that are coming our way. I think it's a very, very great synergy, and it's a lot of, great things coming. It's a great compliment for my career and myself as an artist. So very grateful to God for you guys, crossing path together. Right, Mozart?
Yeah, see, Motar's into it.
He agrees.
Motar likes the couch.